It is. It's podcast day. We're excited. We're digging out there. What have we got? Ooh, yeah.
Dude, it's fucking podcast day.
Takes you back to that time of when you remember what you were doing when you first listened to that album, or
What is going on, you champions? That's right. Yes.
What up?
Podcast day. Two dudes talk music. Yes, and stew. I've been stewing on this shit all day.
What is going on?
Yes.
It's that time. Podcast time. Yeah, spill the beans, man. Spill the beans. We want it. We want this, the exclusive details.
All right. We're going. How you going, Raph?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. What's the go though? This isn't podcast day.
This isn't podcast day.
This is the off week. What's
is.
going on, man? What are we doing?
Well,
Hi, everyone, by the way.
Yes, hello, everyone out there today. Okay, so I messaged you. We talked about the new Slipknot album the other week when Dave from Shinto came on. We talked about it very briefly. I said I loved it. I loved your analysis of it because it's probably the most coherent one I've read in any comment so far that I've actually seen, and that was that it sounds like B-side tracks that they hadn't released yet.
For the most part, I mean, look, and I wasn't necessarily meaning that as a put down or anything. It's just there's a lot of stuff that sounds like
Old school.
If they were putting together a Slipknot album and they wrote a bunch of extra songs, and they were like, you know what, these don't necessarily vibe with all the rest of the ones that we want to put on the album, so we'll just leave it aside for now. That's what it sounded like for me. I don't necessarily think, that said, I went back and had another listen to it today. It's still not really grabbing me all that much, personally. But I mean, Slipknot's a band that's always kind of changed their sound. So
They have.
and that's I guess one of the things you wanted to talk about, right? So we're coming on having a bit of a rant. So for those who might be tuning in to join us today, this is not a normal podcast. We don't have a guest coming on this one. This is just us having a bit of a rant, a bit of a chat about some stuff. So jump in the chat, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Jump in the chat with your questions and give your thoughts on what we're discussing. Right now, we're sort of discussing the new Slipknot album and the
article that came out from Revolver magazine, and I'm pretty sure
the response from the fans, and then Corey's response to the response,
which to me was phenomenal, because where's the quote? Okay, one of the problems about writing one of our heaviest fucking albums of all time is that people just expect you to do that over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is one of the things I really, really wanted to touch on. Do you know why Iowa is so fucking iconic, so absolutely amazing, and why everyone wants to go back to it? It's because there's only fucking one of them.
Yep, exactly. And the reason it was such a heavy and dark album, I mean, I don't know if you've watched it or not. I got like the 10th anniversary edition when it came out. I had like a DVD about the making of, and they were interviewing him, going back over that whole process, and they were in a really bad place. Like, they were in such a bad place when they were working on that album. I mean, the opening track with the screaming on it, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. That is Sid screaming.
I did not know that.
Because what happened was his dad was really, really sick. And he was like, the band was touring and they had commitments and everything there, and he was like, all right, look, I'm going to do this last couple of shows, and then I'm going to come back. Then I'll come back, and we don't have anything after this, so we'll do these couple of shows, and I'm going to fly back and look at, help take care of you and get you sorted and be, everything we're going on. And his dad died before he could get back.
Mm-hmm.
And that screaming was from a session where he just went into the studio, hit record, and screamed until he was hoarse.
Mourned his father. He mourned his
then-
father in that recording booth.
And then you know that was then taken and you know blended up and done stuff with and everything. But that's his raw grief from it. And even watching the interviews, which is like 10 years after, he's still, you know, he's crying while he's telling the story because it's still something. It's still mourning. He's still got all of that grief and all those emotions there from it, which is heavy to watch. And you just talk the rest of the bands on there, and they're just talking about how much of a horrible place they were in recording that album. And you know that's why they only made one album that sounded like that, because no one wants to go back to that place.
No one else can make an album like that. That is what makes that album so iconic.
Yeah, and I think for me as a fan of the band, when I watched that, because yeah, like I always for a long time one of my favorite albums. I mean, it still is today, but for a long time, I'm like, this is just one of my top albums, and I was like, not to the point of being a dick about it or anything, but part of me was like, look, I like what they've done, I love what they've done since. You know, bands change, bands evolve, they're allowed to release the music that they want to release, and that's that. But man, I'd love another album like Iowa. But then watching that and seeing how much, like how fucked they were in that whole thing and how much torment they put themselves through doing it, I'm like, oh fuck, no, okay, no, don't make another one then, please.
Yeah,
that's the place you have to go to. If that's what you have to put yourself through to make an album like that, then please don't. Because as a fan, I would rather that they be happy and enjoy making music, what they're doing. Hey,
CJ the Pineapple Drummer. What is up, dude? Just chilling in an Uber. That's awesome. With this in the background,
awesome.
Dude. Yeah. What a
Cheers,
champion. Thank you so much, dude.
But yeah, so I'm like, man, if that's the place that the band has to go to make music like that, then I don't want it. You know, and I would say that of any band. Like if you're in a band and you have to basically put yourself through emotional torment to write and record an album, and I'm talking, this is different. Like if someone's had personal trauma and then they're using that to write, that's a different story. But like, don't seek this stuff out. You know what I mean? Like don't put yourself through this kind of situation. Like take care of yourselves.
Yeah, man.
And at the end of the day, like I said, I think it just comes back to something that I've said for a very long time about Slipknot, which is you had those first two albums, and then they released Volume 3,
which was just
I was
a fan.
You and I are both old enough to remember when Volume 3 came out, and the anticipation for that album.
We are old enough to remember every single Slipknot album coming out.
I remember. Yeah, well, that's it. Like
Wait and Bleed. Do you remember seeing Wait and Bleed on Channel V back in the day?
No, we did. I didn't have. My parents didn't have Foxtel for a very, very long time. But I remember going into Sanity in Penrith when Iowa came out and grabbing. You know, it was on the rack. You know, you got with the new releases thing, and you could grab the headphones and have a listen to it and that shit. I remember putting that on, and I was like, you know, the intro track plays, and then it goes into People Equals Shit, and I was like, I need to have this fucking album. But back to what I was saying, like those first two albums came out, and Slipknot were pretty much viewed as one of the heaviest bands on the planet at the time.
Yes.
And if you look at, I guess not so much mainstream, but like what was really popular in metal at the time, I'd say that was pretty accurate. I mean, yeah, you had
it was new metal and then Slipknot. That was pretty much it.
You had Cannibal Corpse. You had all these fucking
but that was
but that was minor.
That was different
by comparison, right? So
nothing hit the mainstream like they did.
You look at but then they released Volume 3, and the anticipation for that album was off the fucking charts. Like everyone was like wetting their pants waiting for that album, and like I can remember when it came out, people being disappointed that it wasn't heavy enough, and people going, "Oh, there's too much clean singing." Now, never forget the fact that there was a lot of clean singing on the first album. There's way more than anyone wants to admit. But
oh no, it wasn't clean singing. It was him speaking. It was him speaking in key, which is fucking singing.
Yeah, it's there's I suppose it depends which version of the first album you got to, because there was a couple of different versions with some different track listings when they had to change them up through the reissue. But basically, the first album had plenty of clean vocals on there, right? And then, but yeah, Volume 3 came out, and everyone's like, why is there so much clean stuff on here? Why is there so much soft stuff? And yeah, okay, you had Circles with the acoustic guitar.
That was
Sorry,
beautiful.
Circles, and you had Vermilion Part 2, and
Dude.
those sort of things. And but you know what? Like,
That just showed
it's a great album. And now, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm trying.
No. Go. I'm being rude here.
And so that was, everyone would shat on that album, right? And then years went by, and people came to love it. And those same people that shat on it when it first came out were then, oh, it's the best fucking Slipknot album ever. It's the best Slipknot album ever. Then, oh fuck, what was All Hope Is Gone? I think was the next one.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
And All Hope
That
Is
is
Gone
not
came
my
out,
favorite album.
and everyone said, you know what happened? Everyone said the exact same fucking shit. Oh, there's too much clean singing. It's not heavy enough. Oh, well, I'd argue that All Hope Is Gone is a heavier album than Volume 3.
My thing is that with All Hope Is Gone, it came out roughly at the same time that the Stone Sour album did.
Mm-hmm.
That pinnacle one. Do you know what I mean? So, because there was such an influx of Corey Taylor at the time, it feels like, and obviously because Jim was writing in Stone Sour at the time as well, it felt like there was a crossover.
Yeah, I'd say
That was my thing. I like angry Corey Taylor.
Yep.
My thing is like, it's like an angry Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington movies are great, but give me an angry Denzel fucking any day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, an intense, but quiet, intense, angry Denzel.
Yeah.
Not necessarily raging Denzel. Yeah, I get what you mean. But like, regardless of how it sounded like Stone Sour or not, whatever, it's like people made the same arguments about and the same criticisms about All Hope Is Gone.
Yeah.
And then, years went by. We didn't get another album. Obviously, the tragedy of Paul Gray's passing, and everyone was like, okay, well, I guess we're not getting any more Slipknot albums. And it was just kind of there, and in the end, nothing happened. And then when there was, when they blacked out their accounts, and everyone's like, oh, something's happening. And they are like, all right, we're going to do some new music. And everyone was, really, really on anticipation there. And the Grey Chapter comes out. And again, the same people that criticized Volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone for the same reasons, but had since then come to love the albums again and sing their praises as amazing albums, made the same fucking... It's a vicious cycle. These people make the same criticisms every time Slipknot releases a new album. It's not heavy enough. There's too much clean singing. Where the fuck have you been?
Yeah, dude, anyone that says that this album is not heavy, this new album in particular is not heavy enough, you haven't listened to the album. You've gotten halfway through Adderall and you've given up. Skip Adderall, get through the fucking rest of the album. I promise you will not... Look, in my standpoint, it fucking reminds me so much of the first album. I'm not talking about Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, the 0 through 9 number, whatever, like the Slipknot,
very heavy on
the thrashy parts, the drum, that snare, that is one of the best sounding snares I've heard since Iowa.
I mean,
The snap.
The first album though, the first album sounds like shit.
That's what I love about it, though. That's what got me about it. This is what gets me about this new album. It sounds like shit. Recording-wise, the thing is fucking terrible.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you've seen the interviews where Jim Root's actually talking about he wishes they'd had more time to work on the album. Dude,
I don't know why. My thing is it made me feel like I was in high school again. I don't know what it is. It's when I listened to it today and I showed my wife and stuff like that, and I was reading some of the comments that were on Facebook, and they're just like, it's not heavy enough. It's like, it sounds too much like Stone Sour. It's like, did Stone Sour ever use blast beats? Aside a couple of clean singing parts, that's an angry fucking Corey Taylor. Whether or not they may have rewritten some B-side tracks, good on them. Good on them for going back into the past, grabbing some of that old shit and grabbing some of that anger back again.
And I mean, look, it's, I think too many people these days
Everyone's a fucking critic.
feel, I think there's a big issue in the current age of social media where feedback is so immediate between fans and a band. These are things that people probably said about bands back in, when it was vinyls and tapes and CDs before social media was even a thing, right? Like, this kind of feedback wouldn't reach the bands as readily because the label or the band might see critic reviews, but fan feedback was far less. And that's obviously led to and fans being able to interact with each other was not near, like, yeah, okay, you had your friends that liked it, and you might go to a concert where you could hang around with a bunch of people that liked it. But nowadays, the fan community for a band like Slipknot, like, I'll give you an example. Okay, their Facebook page has something like 15 million followers. So that is
Jesus.
15. That's if they can post a video up and go, hey, this is our new song and our new film clip, and that's 15 million people. 15 million people that could potentially
Automatically get it.
come in and go, this is shit. This is, we love this. This is what's wrong with it. I can't believe they did this. They did this, that, and the other thing wrong. And it's magnified and it's amplified. And if you're growing up in that environment as a musician, it's different. Because you've just grown up with it. You've just dealt with it your whole life.
Yeah.
But if you've transitioned from the previous era into this era, it's got to be gutting because, you're used to seeing negative feedback in reviews and things like that. And you can go, if it's a critic, you can go, oh, it's a fucking critic. What do they know? Critics are biased against metal. They don't like metal.
Yeah, 100% they are.
Or, and even if it's metal reviewers, you can just be like, oh, well, who's this dickhead? When's he ever released an album, right? But when you've got 15 million...
They could automatically respond to a shit song.
Immediately coming back and going, or we didn't like that, or we think it should be this, or we expect this. It's a lot... The weight of that expectation, I feel, weighs a lot heavier on a band. And Look, Corey Taylor's always been Corey Taylor, and he's always said things the way he says things. First time, okay, CJ, first time wearing the Chris Peters said, every release has been controversial. Thing with the latest release is that the band is on fire, but Corey was the weakest part of the album.
What?
Amazing. This is from Chris Peters from Heavy Mag.
Okay, well, I can't. Yeah.
It's tough to top what you did before when you're a vocalist. Corey tried some new shit, but didn't necessarily work as well as in the past. But really, all new music is good. The day the band stops is going to be a sad one. No one can say they like every song from every band. You like it, you listen to it. You don't, you don't like it, go put on the shit that you do like. It's not like they only have 6 songs. I 100% agree, CJ. Absolutely.
Yep.
There is even my absolute favorite bands of all time. I don't like every song on every album. Most albums by band, even my favorite bands, there's songs that I'm not really a huge fan of on there. Like perfect example, Metallica's probably my favorite band of all time. You go back and listen to even their iconic albums like Ride the Lightning. There's songs on Ride the Lightning that I cannot fucking stand. Like Trapped Under Ice and Escape. For me, I'm just like, they just don't do it for me like the rest of them does. And I'll always skip them when they come on. Does that mean I sit there and go, oh, well, fucking, Metallica should do this, that, or the other? No, I sit there and go, they're fucking Metallica. They've put in the work and they've earned the fucking right to make whatever music they want. And you know what qualifies some bands to make whatever music they want? The fact that they're a band making music.
Pretty much.
Bands bands and performers, I hate to tell you this, if you're watching this and you're a fan of music and you're not a musician or a performer yourself, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound preachy or like I'm talking down to you, but your favorite bands do not owe you shit.
No, they fucking do not.
They don't owe you shows, they don't owe you tours, they don't owe you film clips, they don't owe you a certain type of fucking album.
Unless
If
you...
Cannibal Corpse wanted to turn around tomorrow and release a fucking country album, they would have every fucking right to do so. I don't think they would, because obviously, you know, maybe they want to. I don't know, but if they did, it's probably gonna do. And but the way it is these days, they could just go, all right, we're gonna do it under a pseudonym and release it as a different thing.
Mate, they could.
It's easy for them to do that.
Okay, so funny story. I don't know if anyone in the chat can actually confirm this. So you know that Old Town Road song by Little Nas X?
Yeah.
So you know the little folklore behind that, don't you?
Not really.
Okay, so firstly, Little Nas X couldn't release that as a country album until he got Billy Ray Cyrus onto that track, which is what made the track so big and put him on the map, because it put him on the country charts, put him on the hip hop charts. That was first of all. Second of all, it was Trent Reznor that actually wrote the beat. He bought it for $10. Trent Reznor was supposedly, I don't know if anyone can confirm nor deny this, but that's the supposed thing, is that Trent Reznor had a finger in that Little Nas X song, Old Town Road. But that's just a random little thing here and there. Like, at the end of the day,
Okay. It was produced. The beat, the instrumental, was made by a Dutch producer called Young Keo, but it had a sample from a Nine Inch Nails.
there we go. Okay, so it was a little sample. There we go. See, didn't get the whole story.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the thing. Like, I think, and this is where even if a band puts out an album that I don't like again, I'll go back to the Metallica example, right? I like the Lulu album is just what I don't like it. I hate it. I think it's a terrible album. I think it was a terrible idea. But I'm not going to stand there and go, they shouldn't do it. I'm not going to stand there and say that they can't do it, or feel personally betrayed by the fact that Metallica put out an album that I didn't like. People want to make their whole personality about bands that they like, and then get mad when that band does something they don't like, and then they have to go, well, because then it threatens their personality. And exactly as CJ said in the chat, bands will always have it over critics because they make the music and the critics haven't. I'd like to go and quote, I think...
Oh, you froze out on me.
Daniel Sloss, great stand-up comedian. If you're not familiar with Daniel Sloss, go and watch his stuff. But he has an amazing bit about critics, where he basically says, if your only achievement in life is getting fired from your first day at your job at McDonald's because you spat on a burger, you have achieved more in life than someone whose job it is to say, sometimes I like things, and then write it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of have to agree. I mean...
Well, look, at the end of the day, the weird thing is, you and I do album reviews, and we try and review stuff, and I hung a lot of shit. I sat here and I hung a lot of shit on that Drake album.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I know this is going to sound like I'm making an exception for us, but like, we're not critics.
No, we're small fish in a big pond.
That's not our career. We are musicians and music fans who like people who we're two dudes who talk music.
That's exactly right.
Because we've been in it and we've been passionate about music our whole lives, and we can give our thoughts on it, but at the same time we can sit there and go, it's not for me. But we're not going to sit there and say, don't go and listen to it. It's shit.
No.
Most of the time.
I personally think half the people that commented on that Slipknot album didn't listen to the whole thing, because it was very heavy. It was very heavy.
Yeah, and I will agree, like,
It was
Adderall really
heavy.
caught me off guard.
It did.
Adderall
And
really
I
caught me
did not like that track. I will fucking wholeheartedly admit that. Like when Adderall,
Adderall sounded like it sounded like Pink Floyd by way of Stone Sour. It really and it was weird. It was very out of left field.
it
Very out of left
was.
field.
But in
Again,
saying
see,
that though, you did turn around and say that they were going down that whole first pre-self-titled album, which was Mate Feed Kill Repeat, and which was very that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean that's the thing, and people.
I
You
think
can
that was the
tell
only
if
thing they got from it.
if people want to criticize Slipknot for changing up their sound, they haven't been listening to Slipknot for
No,
very long.
no, they haven't.
So, again, CJ in the chat, I guess a sense of ownership from the fans to the band. People make such personal connections, especially when they make great music. The debate is, do fans have a say when they've been a big part of why the bands do what they do? Yeah, I 100% get what you're saying there, CJ. It's
Yeah.
this parasocial relationship, especially in the age of, again, the age of social media, where fans feel this. So many fans feel extremely connected and this big emotional connection to the band, but it's one way. It's only one way, and I don't think there's any. I think there would be almost no circumstance. Like the thing is, yes, but Slipknot will still get up there and say that their success is because of their fans. They 100% go, look, you guys make it worthwhile. You guys still come to see our shows. You guys are enabling us to still do this. Thank you so much. We love and appreciate you guys. And a band can appreciate their fans as a collective, but the emotional connection that I think a lot of these fans have is very one-sided, and it does breed, I think, a sense of entitlement in a lot of fans.
Shit, yeah, it does.
But the what I mean when I say that the band doesn't owe the fans anything is they don't owe them a certain type of album. They don't owe them any albums. If a band decides that they want to finish, they can finish. They don't owe their fans one more album. They don't owe their fans one more tour. They can just call it a day because they want to call it a day. And it's a tricky debate in general when it comes to the whole cult of celebrity, where how much do famous people owe the public a window into their life? How much do the famous people owe their fans a window into their life?
But,
I realistically don't think they do. They're entitled to just as much privacy as anybody else.
yeah, man.
But it's a difficult scenario because it depends how much do you open up. If you're someone like, the Kardashians, for example, and your whole thing, your whole brand has been, we're letting you into our lives, it's obviously going to blur the lines for a lot of the fans. But that's where I think TV and movies are a bit different to music because for a lot of the time, unless you are actively going to a lot of live shows for these things, a lot of the time this is a band, this is it's a voice through a speaker, it's a sound through a speaker rather than the heavy visual element that goes along with something like
Well,
TV
that's what the internet did. It personalised musicians.
Yeah,
In a big way.
And yeah, that's just bred those parasocial relationships. So, yeah, I think it's similar to how everyone rags on like this whole thing with the Slipknot album. It's similar to everyone rags on Nickelback, right? Everyone rags on Nickelback, but they know all the songs and they'll go to the fucking concert because they actually love Nickelback. But they
Dude.
just hate on Nickelback because they think everyone else hates on Nickelback.
Hey, I love me a bit of Nickelback, like certain songs, look at this photograph. Why my eyes so red?
Yeah, but yeah, it's absolutely right. Again, so CJ hit the nail on the head there again. He's in with the amazing takes right now.
You're on fire,
Yeah,
CJ.
100% agree. Same people that rag on the new album will still buy tickets and say Slipknot's an amazing band. They absolutely will. I think it's just because it's a hotbed of what do this is the new thing. This is the album's the new hotness. People are going to be talking about it because it's the current and it's the new thing.
Yeah.
And Corey Taylor's always tried to piss people off a little bit. I think I haven't seen footage of the interview that was done there, so I don't know if he had like a cheeky grin on his face when he said this stuff or what. You know,
Yeah.
it's just all I've seen is the words on the page. So that
Well, man,
takes a lot,
he was literally the
takes a lot of
downfall for.
context away.
He was literally
Take-
the downfall of David Silveria and Korn. Him. Doesn't
I
matter what
didn't
anyone
know
wants to. Well, I don't know if anyone if anyone in the chat here knows this story, is that David Silveria done a centerfold shoot for some teenage magazine. The guy's ripped, man. The guy had a cracking bod. Like, he was a good looking dude. Like, David Silveria was a good looking dude. Unfortunately, after that came out, Slipknot got on stage, Corey Taylor picked up the mic and literally hung the biggest amount of shit I've ever seen on David Silveria, called him a fucking sellout, like blasted homeboy. And it was pretty much from there on out that it was a slow downfall for David Silveria. He fucked his wrist, he got the rehab, and he just never got back into the band.
I think here's the thing though. Like I said, Corey Taylor likes to stir the pot a bit, and I would be naive if I thought that as a fan of Slipknot that I would agree with every opinion that every member of the band has.
No fucking way.
So
one of them is a meth head.
So again, I have to just, from my perspective, I would imagine Corey was being like, I can understand his frustration at the idea of, you know, when you've got that many people trying to work on an album, I can't imagine it's the smoothest process in the world.
I'd imagine it'd only be a 3 or 4 person process and everyone else has to shut the fuck up.
There's, you know, it's...
Be happy you're here.
I get the sense that the Slipknot machine has become difficult for some of those people to be involved in. And... you know, why they stick around when that's the case, I don't know. That's entirely up to them. That's their decisions. They might love doing it, and they just go, look, it kills me while I'm doing it, but afterwards I'm glad it's done. But, you know, this is a guy who, and I think more so as a singer, you're bearing your soul probably a bit more than some of the other members of the band.
But you grow up, man. You've got to understand, this guy's in his 40s now.
And I think that, yeah, and there's a thing between, you know, being able to take criticism and knowing when criticism is in bad faith.
Mm.
And I suspect that's what he was responding to. I think his response was not to, oh, fans have to like the music that we put out. I think it was more a case of, if you don't like it, cool, but don't like,
piss and moan.
We're gonna put out the music that we want to put out.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, that's fine. Just go and listen to something else.
And look,
I get the sense that that's what he was going.
Yeah, 100%. That's what he was going for. Man, look, you know, anyone that wants to take this to heart and basically just go shut the fuck and get what you get. No, it's not the fact of that. Okay, Jim may have had a couple of issues with the way the album went and stuff like that, but Stephen Carpenter had a couple of issues with the way a couple of Deftones albums went. At the end of the day, when you're in that caliber and you've been in the game for, we're talking nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
I think it's at the stage now where the fans take Slipknot for granted.
Yeah.
They were never meant to be as big as what they are. Slipknot were never meant to be a thing. You can logistically think about trying to get 9 band members on a fucking world tour. You all take Slipknot for granted. Like,
everything about Slipknot
is impossible. It shouldn't exist.
So, but yeah, so I think that's kind of, that to me is where things are kind of going with that. Like, I think a lot of fans there's a definite sense of entitlement there, and while bands obviously have an appreciation for their fan base as a general entity, as a collective, any band is going to release the music that they want to release, as they're entitled to do so. And everyone as a fan, if they don't like it, they can go like.
Well, they're living
it's not like fucking look. It's not like Mick Thompson rang these motherfuckers up and said, "Oh, look, this new album's going to be the heaviest fucking album ever. I promise you." and then they've put this one out, and people are like, well, that's not what I was told was coming out. You know, this is not a scenario where anything's made. It's like
Nah.
they've released an album.
Yeah, Slipknot have released an album. Be grateful.
Take
That's all it
take
is.
it or leave it. Take it or leave it at the end of the day.
Where you will not like it, they will definitely pick up new fans from this album. You
yeah.
destroyed that fucking Lamb of God album, by the way, for me.
Yeah. You really? You can't unhear it?
Well, when you said, like, it was sort of going off the cuff of when we were talking about the Butterfly Effect album, and we were like, I was saying that they're not going to pick up any new fans, and that is 100% on that Lamb of God album. It is nothing new. It is a solid fucking album, but it is nothing new.
It's a solid album, and like I said, it doesn't vibe quite the same for me without
it's gone. But once again, that thing's gone back to that Ashes to Awakening album, that new album. Like, I can draw those comparisons.
Like, this is the point, like, at the end of the day, that comes back to the same with the Slipknot thing. Like, as a fan, just as the band is not obligated to put out an album that I like, I, as a fan, am not obligated to like everything that a band puts out.
Nope.
And I don't have to...
Oh, dude, not last thing.
My expression.
You talk as much as you want, CJ.
Yes, CJ, man, absolutely.
You talk as much as you want, man. Feel free, dude.
Just because you can have an opinion doesn't mean you have to have one, and the internet has given a platform for anyone and everyone to have an opinion. My honest opinion was it's just a new album for them to change their image and new shit and keep their shows and fresh. Corey was the weakest part. I think it's mainly a fuck you to end their career with Road.
And
yeah, I mean, and
I hope he does.
Like,
I hope he does.
You know, whatever the band does from here, you know, because I mean, the end so far, whatever that means, who knows? I mean, here's like Slipknot's career has, as we've said, has been a miracle that they've made it at all. They could retire tomorrow, or they could announce tomorrow that they're retiring after whatever run of shows they've got left. But you know, it's just they don't owe their fans to continue. Anyway, let's get on to this other thing that we wanted to talk about as well.
But just before, CJ said, love the band and always will, even if they never write another song or make a pop album. Absolutely. I personally think the downfall for Slipknot, and I'm probably going to sound like a fucking arse face saying this, but the downfall for Slipknot was the popularity of Stone Sour.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think it makes you sound like an arse. I think it's just.
I think it's very true. I think it
got them back on a different track. It got them in a different mentality in terms of songwriting.
Yeah, I don't think Jim should have been in Stone Sour. I think if Corey was going to do Stone Sour, he should have just gone, I'm going to do this with other people, and Slipknot is its own organism. Like, as soon as Stone Sour came out, it was just like this slow decline for people to have this comparison.
It was their thing before Slipknot, though.
I understand that. I know that. But Slipknot were the bigger entity before Stone Sour.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day...
But like, if I'm in a band, like I said, you know, I'm in a band with you know, Kyle and... not Kyle, Corey and Zach. If I... You know, if that sort of... But then if Nuclear Vision, you know, takes off and goes huge, right? And then after that's huge, we want to go back and do some Skunkbone stuff again and go, hey, since we've got all this popularity and all these followers here, we're going to go and revive Skunkbone and do some Skunkbone stuff again. It's, you know, to say...
Yeah, but that's when you start drawing comparison, especially when you get two such influential writers in the band. When you get Jim Root, Corey Taylor, they're such big brains in the actual organism that is Slipknot. As soon as Corey Taylor done that massive, and dude, they were well deserved. They got fucking awards. They got best live band. They got best live out. Like they got shit. Like, Corey Taylor really stepped his mark as a musician in Stone Sour. my issue is that as soon as Stone Sour made it big, is that automatically everyone started to draw comparisons. But if you want to talk shit, and in which case you just did, like
Right, okay,
Stone
sorry, I
Sour
get what you mean now.
were
Sorry.
before fucking
I
Slipknot.
get-
So if you're going to draw
I-
comparison, Slipknot are like Stone Sour.
I understand. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying there.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now. It's just that the popularity there was people made that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's get on to the other thing that we do want to talk about as well today, which is these Blink-182 tickets. Now, I will say for Australia, they don't seem to be going through these same issues. Australian pricing seems to be far more regulated. But basically, what we're seeing in the US is Ticketmaster using what they're calling a dynamic pricing model, which basically means if you're familiar with Uber, Uber is basically what they do is more so in America than here, but they have a dynamic pricing, which means that in peak times when there's more people using the service or more people trying to access the product, the pricing will increase. This is to try and they claim that this is to try and level off demand and reduce the number of people wanting to use the service, because the price goes up, it's more expensive, less people are willing to pay that price, so demand levels out and it balances, in theory anyway. We all know that that's not what works. We all know that it just ends up exploiting people because they don't have any other choice and they have to pay for it. That's exactly what's happening with these ticket prices in US and Canada for this Blink-182 tour. So I sent you the screenshots for this article.
You did.
And I'm just gonna go through some of them here.
I was disgusted. Just personally, I was absolutely mortified. And we aren't even talking about ticket resellers. That's the worst part about it.
This is not scalpers who have bought tickets and are reselling them at all. I want to be clear about this.
Yeah.
This is Ticketmaster directly.
So if bots get this, if actual bots get this, mate, you...
So understandably, there is a lot of people trying to buy tickets for this tour, right? Lots of people logging in, lots of people trying to get tickets. Now, people included in this little article I was looking at, there's people talking about they joined the queue for tickets for the Chicago show about 10 or 15 minutes before they actually went on sale. It said it was 2,000 plus people ahead of them. And then floor seats were $2,000.
And that's the ones right in front of the stage, yeah?
Well, it says the center section, so it doesn't say it was at the stage. It says floor seats, so I'm assuming there was standing in front of that maybe. But basically, yeah. So if lots of people are logging on to try and get tickets all at once, which is what happens now, because everyone knows tickets go fast, and so they will log on, and shows will sell out very, very rapidly. That's going to spike the ticket prices. So the fact that this is such a major thing, not only the world tour but the reunion with Tom, it's a lot of people are really, really upset about this. I mean, people are seeing tickets from a few $100s to over $1,000. Yeah, dynamic pricing is bullshit. $2,000 for 2 Blink-182 tickets in Toronto at the 100s level. So that's like way up.
Nosebleeds. And you got to understand, man. These aren't like Australian stadiums where you're fitting like 60, 70,000. These are 100,000 plus stadiums. These are big venues.
Yeah. And I think that, and what's important to note as well, right, is that this is not just a Ticketmaster thing.
No.
This isn't something Ticketmaster's done without the knowledge or input from the band or the band's people. Okay, I'm not necessarily saying that Blink was personally talking to the Ticketmaster people. Blink's management was probably the ones talking, but ultimately they do benefit from this pricing, and artists bands can opt out of the dynamic pricing model. So again,
I have a feeling Tom's got.
primarily an American thing that seems to be happening with, but you got to know that if they're doing this in the US, it's only a matter of time.
Don't buy
before this
fucking
sort of
tickets.
shit
If they
starts happening,
ever bring that shit here, do not fold. Do not buy tickets. Just
yeah,
they will bring the prices down as soon as no one goes on it. No one should. I have a screenshot here, right? That Raf sent me. And where is it? It's floor. It says section floor, row 4. So you're not at the stage. You're like 2 sections behind it. It's $705.50.
and that's US price. That's US dollars as well. Remember, that's
So you're looking in the thousands. You're looking at $1,000. It's 1,000 AU.
Yeah.
And you're getting behind. You're getting like behind them. You get the next section of the mosh pit.
And I mean, look, yes, okay, I did recently pay $500 for a Rage Against the Machine ticket, right? Unfortunately, show's now cancelled, so it's getting refunded. But that was those really expensive tickets for Rage Against the Machine shows. They were charity tickets, so part of that went to the band, but a part of it was also going to local, like, community charity.
So that's a different ballgame.
Local community. And that's a different ball game, and that was like not dynamic pricing. That was just fixed pricing, okay? But it's again, CJ here. I'd be interested to see a big band announce a tour and not do pre-sales or online ticket sales. Huge risk, but it's one way to combat it. Yes, they won't get money before the tour to pay for it, but bands like Blink could afford that risk and set a new standard for it. See, I think the biggest problem with that, CJ, is going to be. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I'm reading that is you're suggesting there to just sell tickets at the venue on the day, which I can see.
That's mayhem.
I can see mayhem. I can see where you're going with that, but you got to think, like, if you've got
100,000 people in a 40,000 venue.
Think about how fucked up it is already trying to travel to and from, on public transport and on the roads around venues when major events like that are on. If you're going to have, as you said, like, you might have it at a 40,000 seat stadium, but if you're going to have 100 or 150,000 people show up to try and buy tickets,
that's a riot. It's fucking riot.
It's absolutely going to be dangerous. You're going to have massive crowds. You're going to have stampedes. I feel like
someone will die.
As a safety thing, that'd be a bit risky. Again, correct me if I'm misunderstanding what you're suggesting there, CJ. But I
understand what you're saying about the no-do pre-sales, because I had a look at the pre-sale tickets for Blink today, and Mosh Pit is gone.
The thing is, pre-sale is not a pre-sale anymore. A pre-sale doesn't mean shit.
Nah, it's just as long as you signed up to Ticketmaster.
Yeah, it's like you just need to have an account. Well, okay, I've got an account. What is, like, there's no special requirement there to be it. Like, the only pre-sales that I think are valid would be like fan club pre-sales.
Nah, fuck that. Do it like the old school days. You show up for the pre-sale tickets at the fucking at the Ticketmaster box thing, and you fucking get your ticket in your hand.
No, I think if a band has like an official fan club, I think it's reasonable that they do pre-sales.
Yeah.
In limited numbers. I'm not saying you open up every ticket to be available to the fan club. What I'm saying is you have a limited allocation in each category of tickets. So you have a limited number of floor tickets, a limited number of tickets in each seated tickets in each section, and you can go, right, fan club, there's an allocation available for this, and you guys get first run at it a few days before. That seems 100% reasonable to me, but the fact that a pre-sale these days is just like you said, you just need to have a Ticketek account.
Yep.
Ticketmaster account.
I don't know if you remember back in the Soundwave days, it used to be like if you were like a Soundwave member and you'd been to a couple of like the Soundwaves, you'd get like exclusive pre-sale tickets. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you were loyal to the cause, again, like, and that's exactly saying like with your allocation. Like with your fan club thing. Yeah. And especially for Australia, I mean, like, You got to think a band like Blink-182 coming out, dude. They haven't come out. Fuck, how long has it been since they've like?
A very long time.
Dude, you got parents bringing their kids to that thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a generational thing now.
It really is, and it's sad to see. Well, it's sad but not unexpected to see companies doing this sort of shit, and taking advantage of people, exploiting people's fear of missing out.
Especially after COVID.
Yeah.
Like that's all I can see. It's like everyone wants to go out and do all the things. Like, I always wanted to see Blink. Like, they're going out and doing those things now. It's not like a if and when they're going to do it. No, they're doing it. So the ticket sales are like everyone's trying to get tickets. Everyone's trying to.
And I understand, big bands where it's a business, where it's a machine around them. Revenue from music sales is through the floor. Merch sales, they do what they can there, but there's so many bootleggers these days. Like, how can you make money? You have to make it from touring, and
the fact that
insurances go up, everyone's pay for all their jobs goes up. It really just starts to become untenable, and soon just touring is just not going to happen either, because it's just going to be such a the costs are going to become so prohibitive that not enough people aren't going to be able to go, because it's going to be too expensive for most people. And when you've got the cost of living going up the way it is, and I don't have a solution here, by the way. I'm not saying this like I've got some fucking solution in my back pocket that I can whip out and say this will fix everything.
I reckon CJ just threw one out.
But yeah, most massive bands will run their own tickets. You know what? It's starting to get that way, man. It is. You cut out the Ticketmaster models, cut out all of that, because it'll
just
be
get the venue yourself. If you're big enough.
Their own ticketing platform. Ticketmaster doesn't do the venue for them, but Ticketmaster takes a cut of ticket sales and coordinating stuff. So when you've got, it's when you involve a platform that will, when you're band, how much does it cost these bands to do it versus, if they set up their own one, if they set up their own ticket platform, that's going to get some of the costs down. It's going to take a little bit. It's not going to take a lot. But it'll nudge a little bit out of it. And if bands start doing that, maybe these companies will straighten up their act and start trying to be fucking reasonable about stuff, instead of adding all these extra service charges onto tickets to try and wring extra money out of people.
Well, this is where you get like the Pinks and the Katy Perrys, and they space their shows out when they come to Australia. And CJ hit the nail on the head here, where he goes, I remember Metallica on the Death Magnetic tour only had one show per city, and the tickets were initially offered through the online fan club, and that's a really good way of doing it, and then you get those slow announcers. But the weird thing is, when you get those pop stars that come out, they space out their shows a lot better, and then when that first show sells out in Sydney and it sells out like that, the second show gets announced.
But
they don't sell out so quick.
But I guarantee you, they know those shows are going to sell out.
Yeah, they do.
Those shows, and that's exactly what would have happened with Metallica there.
Yeah.
They would have expected that to sell out, and they knew that by only announcing the first shows, they could see how quickly that sold out and extrapolate that data into likely sales on other tickets, on other shows. Then they can calculate exactly. They always knew they were going to announce more shows. They just how many more shows they're going to announce, and they take that pre-sale ticket data and extrapolate that to get a rough estimate. I know like a lot of venues do have issues or agreements with Ticketek and Ticketmaster. So I'm not entirely sure how the full workaround happens. I think you'd have to have some big bands do that and demand these things. I believe I might have actually, now that I think about it, I may have seen something outlining some of those a while ago.
Here's the way I see the whole thing working like in Australia, is that you got obviously like a promoter. So a band would turn around and say that it cost you $50,000 to get the whole band out here. We can divvy it out. We can sort it from there. So you pay us 50 grand. You organise the venue. You organise everything else. You just give us our 50K, and we'll come play. Do you know what I'm saying there? So then it's up to the promoter to sort out the venue, insurance. They get their 50K. They get their 50K. Bang. Like it's just up.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what happened with AJ Matter. Like he had a whole bunch of bills where like a lot of metal bands were going, okay, it cost you this much to get us out. It cost you this much to get us out. You sort everything out. We'll come play. But it cost you this much to get us out into the country, and we'll come play. That's it. He didn't pay his bills. Soundwave went to shit. We ain't got no more heavy metal festivals anymore. And that's where I think CJ was talking, like if bands turned around and went no middleman.
Yeah.
We'll organise a show. We'll come out. We'll pay the insurance. We'll take the ticket sales. Blah 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 blah. But that's so much work. That is especially for a fucking full-time touring band.
That's why you outsource it. But again, like CJ is obviously that, like the crux of it. Venues need from both the venue and the band side. It's exclusive, or it's venues have these exclusive deals, and if they break it, they run their own tickets. But then there's like issues around insurance and all sorts of stuff comes into play there. So unfortunately, it really is a case of a duopoly in the ticketing world, and that's why bands kind of it's.
But that's why smaller venues kick the shit out of it. Like, dude, I saw Periphery.
One of the reasons it's important to support smaller bands and smaller venues.
Mate, I saw Periphery at the Lansdowne. The first time I saw Periphery, it was the Lansdowne Hotel.
Yeah.
Bro, Periphery at the Lansdowne. Periphery and... who's that Japanese band? Oh, man.
Not Deer and Grey.
No. They're the crazy Japanese dudes. And they did the cover of Prodigy. Oh, no. Anyway.
No idea.
Saw them there. But whatever, like, do you know what I would love to see? Bigger bands coming out doing the smaller venues. I would pay $250 to go see Korn at a small pub. Do you know, like a small 150, 200 person venue?
Yeah, but regardless of tickets sold, the place is going to get mobbed.
Yeah, I understand that.
It becomes a safety hazard for literally everyone. It
does, but it'd be so good. Fuck, I would love to have seen like Korn or Deftones like just before they'd hit that peak.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, I mean, that's kind of, we just wanted to have a bit of a rant about those things.
We did.
Thank you so much to CJ for being super active in the chat there. You're an absolute legend, my dude. We will be back next week with a podcast episode. Once we've got a guest lined up for that one. If you got any comments on either of the topics we talked about, please put the comments on the videos, send us an email.
Yeah, man.
You know, like, share, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, do all that good stuff. We will see you guys next week. And yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in, guys.